How dare you return to the palace?
But I am your confidant.
Confidant.
Ha!
You are a traitor! Get out!
You think you can banish the great Rasputin? By the unholy powers vested in me, I banish you with a curse. Mark my words. You and your family will die within a fortnight. I will not rest until I see the end of the Romanov line forever!
Hi, I'm Joe.
And I'm Tiana,
And this is Next Door Villain.
a podcast where we uncover the villains to discover their humanity. Oh my god! You have something on your beard.
What?
Oh my god, it looks like an eyeball is like on your beard.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
I think your eyeball popped out, but you should put it back in.
Okay, I'm putting my eyeball back in. Oh,
Oh my god, your mouth is like gone. Like it fell on the floor.
it's a shame the listeners can't see all this wild stuff that's happening.
I know. Oh, it's like, and all of your slobber is slobbering out, but you can still talk even though your mouth is gone from your face. Oh my god, your hand too. What's going on? Why isn't your hand on your arm?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Like there's blood everywhere. Aren't you gonna like clean that up?
Sure.
Are you Rasputin?
I don't think so.
I think you might be in limbo between life and death. Like Rasputin from the animated film by Fox Animation Studios.
20th Century Fox.
Anastasia. 20th Century Fox
Who
thing.
is now owned by Disney, so we can, in fact, call it a Disney movie at this point. It is
Oh, I
their
didn't know
property.
that. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Pretty soon I'm going to be Disney's property.
It's only a matter of time.
Right?
So, despite the fact that Tiana is having some weird hallucinations about,
No, like your eye popped out, like it went boop.
all right, sure, okay, we all believe you, Tiana. Me and all the baddies listening to
you.
this podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate
We are,
it.
however, actually talking about Rasputin from Disney's / 20th Century Fox's animated film Anastasia from 1997. Also worth noting, one of my favorite songs to dance to on Just Dance for the Wii.
Oh, really? Which one is that?
I think it's called Rasputin. I think it's
Oh.
like, yeah, like rah rah Rasputin, lover of the something. You know
Oh.
that song? All
I
right,
don't know
it's
that one.
it was a fun dance that I used to do on Just Dance for the Wii. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Check it out.
But you didn't dance to In the Dark of the Night.
I don't know what that is.
The one that he sings.
Oh, no.
In the dark of the night, people will find her.
Yeah. All right. So
Yeah, I love Rasputin.
Rasputin
I love men.
was a real person,
Yes, he
yeah.
was.
but and we don't talk about real people on this podcast, but Rasputin, the real fella, is so different from the Rasputin we see in the film Anastasia that he might as well be a work of fiction. But
Oh, yeah.
I did want to talk about sort of the plot of the movie and a little bit about the real Rasputin and sort of talk about those differences, because I went on a bit of a deep dive this week and I learned a lot about Rasputin, who was in fact a very interesting fellow himself.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of what we see in Rasputin in the Disney film is sort of inspired by the mythology surrounding this guy, who was very interesting. So the Romanov family, who was a real family in the early 1900s Russia, though actually they were the ruling family for hundreds of years. I think it was in the early 1600s that their family came to rule Russia, and then the lineage just continued for so long and then ended in the early 1900s when the Romanovs were all murdered in an uprising, essentially. So that's real stuff. In the film Anastasia, the Romanovs are like hanging out, having a party, and Rasputin shows up, and he's like the former advisor who's been disgraced, and he's like pissed that they're having this party without him. I think. Is that why he's angry?
Well, kind of Maleficent-like, isn't it? Well, I think he's more pissed that they banished him or didn't want to work with him anymore.
Yeah, I think he's just sad that he didn't get invited to their party.
That
He's
too,
just
probably.
he's
So
a
he
sad
brings
boy.
like green demons,
Yeah, so he sells his soul for the ability to like
which goes hard. He went really hard in selling his soul. That's impressive.
yeah. I mean, when I don't get an invite to a party, I might have a few drinks alone by myself and watch a movie, but that's another way. It's
You won't sell your soul.
I haven't considered it yet, but
Yeah.
maybe on the table for the future.
Yeah, good to keep it on the docket just in
Yep.
case. It's good that you have that option to sell your soul
Yep.
if you need to.
So he sells his soul, and then basically like gets these magical bat things to be his little minions, and sort of inspires the uprising, or instigates the uprising to kill the Romanov family.
Yeah.
And then they mostly die, but the grandmother gets away and is split up from Anastasia, who loses all her memory. And then he falls into the ice and goes into like this like not alive, not a dead sort of limbo state.
Yeah.
Until years later, he, while in this limbo state, somehow realizes that Anastasia is still alive. So he didn't, in fact, manage to kill off the Romanovs, which inspires him to come back and finish the job. But when he tries to do it, he dies.
Yeah, that's basically it. And that little green thing, when it cracks and breaks, kind of killed him in a way. Or killed him even more because he was dead and alive.
Yeah, this was actually one of my favorite movies growing up. I had completely forgotten about it until we decided to do this podcast.
Yeah, I really like Rasputin. I like men with long beards and who like rodents who sing to him.
Yeah,
I like that a lot.
so the real Rasputin was not a magical sorcerer, though a lot of people sort of talk about him as if he was. There's a lot of this like mythology around him, but turns out he was a regular dude.
It's a regular
He was
dude
a
with
peasant,
beard,
actually.
kind of like you.
What's that?
He had a beard, right?
Oh, yeah. He did have a beard.
So I just said, oh, he was a regular dude with a beard. I was like, well, that fits Joe's description too. So.
Oh, thank you. Rasputin's beard was much longer and, from what I understand, much smellier than mine.
I can't confirm that. I don't know the smell of.
I use coconut oil to moisturize mine, so
Oh, wow.
I imagine it smells pretty nice most of the time. Rasputin, however, on the other hand, spent a lot of his early life wandering around Russia on these sort of long pilgrimages, like I'm like months at a time, kind of wandering from church to church, which was actually a normal thing in the early 1900s. Like thousands and thousands of people did this, and it was sort of like it was a religious thing, and they were like dirty and smelly, and they just like wandered around and learned the gospel or whatever. And so he did this for a long time, and he sort of like got this reputation because I think he's like sort of a lot of things went right for him. Like he was good at manipulating people. Like everyone talks about, he's got these really piercing eyes. Like he obviously wasn't magical, but there was something about his eyes that was really striking to like everybody he met. And he loved to drink and dance and have sex. He did have a wife and children. Seems like he may have also been kind of a sex addict on the side. There's a lot of sort of talk about his groping of people and how,
Ooh.
not maybe the best fella to whatever. He's a villain. both in real life and is fictional. I want to give credit to, so I did a lot of research for this podcast, and a lot of places I read sort of had all these wild stories about Rasputin. But the one that I listened to that seemed the most like realistic or like authentic, true version was on this podcast called Most Notorious. And it was just an interview with this author, Douglas Smith, who wrote this book, Rasputin, Faith, Power, and the Twilight of Romance. And it seemed to get past a lot of the flim-flam surrounding Rasputin, like that he was this magical sorcerer, had this healing power, and was able to manipulate the Romanov family and to do his bidding. What really happened is that he was this religious wanderer, and he had started to get a little bit of a following, and the Romanov family at the time was ruled by Nicholas, who didn't really want to be ruler of Russia necessarily. He didn't have that sort of like authoritarian rule. He was a little bit weaker, didn't want to make decisions, didn't want to be in public a lot. And so he was sort of receptive to getting advice and whatnot. So he was introduced to Rasputin, and then sort of like immediately started taking his advice on political things and religious things. And one of the things that Nicholas and his wife Alexandra were struggling with is that they needed to produce an heir. And Alexandra had 4 women in a row. And they were like really worried that she wasn't going to have a son. One of those women being Anastasia, who the movie is about. And I know I'm rambling here, but side story, Anastasia, the reason that's her name, which is not a Russian name, is because they were so upset that they had another girl who wasn't going to be able to continue ruling, and so they didn't want to give her a Russian name because of the disappointment.
Damn.
Anyways, then they finally had a son who turned out to be he had hemophilia, which is a like disease that basically like it's like thin blood. So like if you get injured or cut, you can basically bleed out and die really easily. And so he was suffering with that for a lot of his life. And there's this famous story about Rasputin showing up and basically healing him. But there's really no evidence of that. There was no cure for hemophilia at the time. And a lot of the historical record is just sort of muddy about how exactly that might have happened. So some people theorize that he might have actually been poisoning the son, and then when he was invited over to try to heal him, he would stop giving him the poison, and then obviously he would get better. So that's one possibility. Some people, like this author, Douglas Smith, he believes that really probably what happened is that there is actually like sort of scientific evidence that believing that you are better can like help you be better, and that his confidence and talking with his mother Alexandra that everything was going to be okay, that he was going to be all right, sort of gave him the confidence to feel better. And even though he wasn't cured of hemophilia when Rasputin was around and giving that advice, it seemed like maybe things were better for him. Anyway, so he was this close.
It's interesting that the philosophy of manifestation may have been at work.
Yeah, or it may not have been. This is all speculation, which is sort of the problem with the history of Rasputin, is a lot of it is speculation. But there was this thought out there that he was this magical healer, and that he had the ear of the ruler of Russia. And so all of the people who like wanted to tear down the aristocracy started to spread these myths about Rasputin and how he was this evil sorcerer who was like taking over and like, or, you know, maybe enchanted the ruler or was manipulating him. And then on the other side of things, there were people who were like wanted the aristocracy to continue, but they were mad at Rasputin because they also thought that he was influencing and they didn't want him to. So they were spreading these evil rumors about him being a terrible, evil sorcerer. So the rumors were coming from both sides. And I think that it sounds like that kind of elevated his status as this mythological like person who had all these, you know, special powers and special influence and whatnot. And then those stories just kind of grew over time.
And I just wonder if he wasn't as bad as people made him out to be.
Yeah, he may not have
but
been.
We don't really know.
And then his death is sort of famously sort of known as like he was murdered by one of the other like upper class families who didn't want him around, and basically they kept trying to kill him over and over again, and he just like wouldn't die, and then finally.
Maybe he was magical. Who knows?
Yeah. But what I thought was interesting that this author, Douglas Smith, wrote about in his book was that the only account of that murder is from the family that murdered him. And they sort of invited him into their home under false pretenses and killed him in cold blood. So he thinks there's reason to believe that story might have been hyperbolized or fabricated in order to make them not look so bad for just like inviting this dude over and killing him.
Huh. Sometimes I wish that historical records could be more accurate, especially in times like this.
Yeah. A lot of people thought that Rasputin might have been a spy for Germany. Was he German? No.
Or something?
No, he was Siberian.
Oh, okay.
But just because he had all this influence over the family, people were just speculating because they didn't like him and they thought that he shouldn't be there offering all this advice and that they shouldn't be listening to all his advice.
What an interesting man. He becomes a wanderer and a religious man, and then suddenly he's at the top.
Yeah.
With the monarchy. Incredible.
Yeah, I mean, good. Yeah, good for him. Like, one thing that sort of struck me is that I feel like the stories surrounding Rasputin, I guess in my mind, make him sound like he's from like he's this mythical figure from like medieval times. But this is like,
it's kind of recent, actually.
Yeah, like early 1900s, leading into World War I. This was not that long ago.
Yeah, my grandpa was alive then.
Your grandpa was alive when Rasputin was like doing his thing.
I mean, my grandpa was very young.
Yeah, right.
Toddler, but...
Yeah. I'm not a historian by any means. And in fact, my history teacher in high school told me that I should probably just stop there. So...
No.
I mean, I did fine. I passed the class. I got an A, but he was like, this probably just isn't your subject. So...
Oh, dear. That's okay. My history teacher knew that I liked his eyes. So
Rasputin's or your history teachers?
History teachers.
Interesting.
So, yeah, maybe. This is a podcast with people with troubling pasts with their history teachers.
Yeah, interesting.
No, just kidding.
Let's not delve into that too much.
Yeah.
All right. So, okay, I've been rambling so far this whole time. Tiana, how do you empathize with this dude from the movie?
Yeah, with the fake one.
Yeah, with the fake guy.
I'm not going to empathize with the real one, but I am going to empathize with and relate to the fake Rasputin, who actually has green demon power, and a talking albino bat named Bartok, who is so cute. Okay. Well, in one way that I kind of relate to him is, so Rasputin's body falls apart a lot, and this is some of the comic relief of the movie Anastasia. He's got his eyeball falling out, and then his mouth is like going down his beard. And of course, we know that this is because he's kind of in this alive/dead limbo state. He went through some ice, right? And then that should have killed him. But because the curse wasn't fulfilled, it's like his body is dead, but his self is still alive. Because he can't move forward with death until the Romanov curse is complete. I don't know. It's a movie, guys. And so he's in this like...
It sounds really sad and depressing, though.
Yeah.
To be in that state.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I'll talk about that too. But I can kind of relate to this whole like body part thing falling off. Surprisingly, in a weird way.
I am surprised and intrigued.
Yeah. In a weird, strange way, because there was a time I felt like my body was falling apart or body parts were going to drop off of me, but they didn't actually. When I was in high school, I lived in rural South Dakota, in the Midwest, United States, and there was a guy who was maybe like 2 years older than me. and I thought he was cool, but he was actually like not cool. He gave me a ride where I can't remember. But I was like, ooh, I get to be in a ride with a boy.
Oh, hey.
And get this, he would go 90 miles per hour in like a 25 mile per hour zone with his car or whatever. Because you can like start driving at like 14 in South Dakota. And he would like drive so fast around the block, and he would stop at a stop sign like really hard. He would slam on the brake, and then he would go really fast again and slam on the gas. And he would do that over and over again. When the car jerked from the sudden stops and goes, it was like my soul and my arms and my head were like going to detach from my body because of the rebound, and because my body was moving in every direction in the passenger seat. My head would like hit the window or something, and I'd be like, I'm okay.
Why did you get in a car with this dude?
I thought he was cool, but I was like a noodle in a car, right? And this guy was speeding through rural South Dakota. He was like Fast and Furious South Dakota drift. He thought that was cool. And so like I felt like my arm was going to fall out of my socket, and then my head was going to like break off of my neck or something, and it just felt like I didn't have any control over like my body parts. I know that's kind of simple or strange, but
Strange. More strange, I think.
but if I were to be like, oh yeah, I kind of felt like my head was just gonna go to Mars or fall somewhere deep into the earth. That was a time that it felt like that. So, but yeah, I can talk about the limbo thing, make it a little bit more serious. So yeah, I think I can also relate to his agony of being in limbo, where, you know, he's dead, but he's also not alive.
He can't do anything. He can't do anything like in the living alive world, and he can't move on and do anything in the next world. He can't,
Right.
go rule hell or whatever he's destined to do next.
Right. That is probably what he's destined to do next. He needs to get promoted in hell, but he can't do that yet. He has this thing where he can't move on until his goal is fulfilled, until Anastasia is dead, because she's still alive running around. And that's kind of why he's in this limbo state. The curse isn't fulfilled. I can't relate to the part where he wants to kill the Romanovs, but I can kind of relate to his limbo situation and how agonizing it can be, because I'm in a limbo situation too, but not between life and death, but one where I'm just in between the previous part of my life and the next part. And I'm in a transitionary period. So as you know, I'm trying to move overseas to China. So I'm like kind of in between my last phase of my life of being someone in the US and then my next phase in life of being in China. So I'm just like wandering around, waiting.
Yeah. And you haven't been able to like commit to like starting something here because you've been waiting on all these things to come together, and you didn't know like how and when they were going to. So it's forced you to not like I guess that's what's frustrating. It's not like you're just choosing not to do anything. It's like you have to wait on other things to come together in order to be able to make a decision for yourself.
Yeah. Especially because with COVID, you know, it takes a long time to get into China now if you really want to go. There are a lot of things you have to do and wait for. And you like wait for flights to be cheaper. You wait for paperwork to be authenticated. You wait for all these different things, and waiting to go to the next phase in life is nerve-wracking sometimes. And yeah, and you know, I just have to move on. I just have to go. I might not ever feel ready, but I just have to go.
Yeah.
Just like Rasputin just has to go.
Yeah.
Just to die. Come on, man. Yeah.
I have a friend who's was just recently in a very similar state where he grew up in Mexico and he's been living and working in the US for a number of years, and he had to renew his visa, and it was just taking so long, and then he just couldn't do anything. He has a job here which he needs to have in order to get his visa, but he's not allowed to work at his job until the visa comes through. And then there were times where he had to go back to Mexico because he was waiting on the stuff to come through from the government, and he didn't know when it would come through, and he didn't have time to wait around because he could get in trouble for staying here, even though it's the US government that he's waiting on information from. So he was just like stuck and like couldn't work, couldn't do anything else, like really couldn't make any decisions for his life for I think it was almost a year, when it was only supposed to take a few months. And it was, I think it was very frustrating and hard on him because he just wanted to get to live in his life.
It is really hard. And like navigating all those regulations. Oh, yeah, don't get me started. Because even navigating US visa regulations just.
Yeah, navigating government regulations on whether or not you're allowed to be around is incredibly frustrating.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of paperwork.
Yeah.
It's a lot of waiting. Yeah.
Almost as frustrating as being neither dead nor alive.
That's what you feel like, right? I also thought, to get a little more philosophical on this life-death thing, when I watched Anastasia and Rasputin be in that life and death limbo, I was like, maybe I am in a life and death limbo where I'm not truly living, like I'm not truly acting alive, but I'm still walking around like I'm alive on Earth.
Yeah, and you're definitely not dead.
So I'm not like totally dead, but am I really alive? Good question. I'd like to think I'm not in this limbo. I'd like to think I'm truly acting alive or truly being alive, whatever that means to you. But thanks to Rasputin, I can check myself and ask that.
Wow.
Are you truly alive, Joe?
I don't know. I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay. Yeah, get back to me.
I did have a hard time getting into the mind of Rasputin. I think part of it is that in the film we don't get a lot from him. He's just like this. He just shows up, and sort of the bad thing that happened to him has already happened to him. We don't get a lot of his backstory, but that, and I know I'm like hung up on this sort of silly like not getting invited to the party thing. Really, he's upset because he was like exiled and whatnot. But that feeling of being excluded is something that I really struggle with, and I'm like constantly worried about. Are people not inviting me to something, or are people doing stuff without me and sort of intentionally leaving me out because they don't want me around? That is really something that I'm constantly anxious about, and rarely have any evidence that it's happening. Like, it's like, I don't think my friends are hanging out without me or avoiding me because they don't like me. And most often when people don't want to hang out with me because they don't like me, I also like don't like hanging out with them. You know, like in reality, we vibe well with people or we tend to vibe well with people who also vibe well with us. Just that sort of anxiety about wanting to be around and wanting to be wanted and not being wanted. And Rasputin really takes that to the extreme when he shows up and then decides to sell his soul in order to curse the family for excluding him. He also probably did something bad, right? Like
probably. I think he said that he was a fraud. Like in the movie, you're like, you are a fraud, Rasputin. Go away.
Yeah. Well, that's frustrating.
Yeah. That's right. He called me a fraud.
Also, this determination, I think, is a little bit admirable. He wanted that family dead, and he had to fulfill that.
He did.
As someone who like has a really hard time following through with things, like I'm really good at starting plans.
Yeah.
But like I probably never would have gone back for Anastasia. Like,
right.
I would have just been like, it's fine. It's just one little girl. She doesn't even know who she is. So like, what's the problem? Let her live her life. It's too much stress for me. Somewhat admirable for his desire to fulfill the task, even though he was probably curse bound to finish it.
Yeah, right. I have to kill a child. But his other goal was complete, which is get rid of the monarchy. You know, in this movie, the monarchy's not ruling Russia anymore.
Yeah.
All thanks to him. You can look at that positively or negatively because, okay. And I'm making no commentary on the real Romanovs, right? I found it interesting that in the movie, you know, the fake Rasputin, that they were blaming Rasputin for civil and political unrest.
Mm-hmm.
They were blaming it on this curse that he unleashed. But it seems more plausible to me that people just wanted food and land. And it's more plausible that they took out the monarchy because they weren't getting that, not because Rasputin unleashed some green demons. Like, you know, he could have unleashed this curse and the monarchy could have been like, oh, Rasputin unleashed bad vibes among Russia. That's why we were taken over. But at the end of the day, was it Rasputin's curse? Or or were they just fed up with the monarchy?
I would agree to that. I think that if they weren't already kind of fed up with it, then it wouldn't have been I think might have been seizing on a feeling that was already in the air. His curse was taking advantage of something that was already there. And not that I'm a history buff or know any history at all, so don't take my word as fact. But I believe sort of the real Nicholas ruler, Romanov family at the time, though for most of his ruling was generally fine or generally not hated, I guess. His handling of World War II was really upsetting for the people of Russia and Russia.
Of World War I or World War II?
Which one did I say?
You said World War II.
Well, I meant World War I.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Yes, that his handling of that like really hurt the Russian people and they really suffered because of it, and that ultimately led to the demise and murder of the Romanov family in real life and the uprising of the Russian people to overthrow the monarchy or whatever they called it, aristocracy.
Yeah.
So Rasputin gets real upset in this film and goes to sell his soul in order to get the power and ability to put this curse on the people. Tiana, what would you sell your soul for? What would cause you to sell your soul away?
Something so bad that it causes me to want to sell my soul. Well, first, I also thought about what it meant to sell your soul.
What does it mean?
What does it mean? I don't know, because the movie
are you asking
doesn't really
me?
say. Well, I'm thinking out loud here.
Oh, okay.
Like, does it mean your soul will never go to the next realm after death? Does it mean like your soul is kind of taken by some other being, and so when you die, you just die? You don't go somewhere else. Like, that was one thing that I thought.
I think it sort of means your soul becomes sort of beholden to whoever you're selling it to, the devil or whatever.
So then the person who has it forces you to do stuff?
I don't think
or gets to?
They have to, but like, I guess if they want to, they get to.
Maybe it's like you're their servant.
Kind of.
Servant of the person who has your soul.
Yeah. I think you're beholden to them. Like if they want something and they ask you, you have to do it, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's generally not considered a positive.
Right.
It's sort of a big deal.
Or does it mean that your innate self that you possess, like your personality, your thoughts, your dreams, or something goes bye-bye? I don't know. Like, depends on how you define a soul.
It doesn't belong to you anymore, is I think the general concept. Whatever that, I don't know what that means, but it feels like not cool.
I would sell my soul for immortality.
You want to be immortal?
Yeah. Because death is scary and I don't like that. And I would be a mysterious woman, right? A mysterious immortal woman who wanders around the world finding lovers. And then when my lovers die because they age, but I don't age, I go to the next city, change my identity, then find a new husband or lover or whatever. And then he dies of old age. And then I just start this process all over again of being a wandering, mysterious woman who never dies, but then like has children and they age. And
I think
But I'm still around.
I
still
think,
around.
I think you've really romanticized what this would look like in practice. Because first of all, this wandering you do is not going to be easy. It's not easy to create a new identity. First of all, and it costs money. And if you get caught, you might be in prison for a long time.
But there's no law that says you can't be immortal.
No, but there's a law, identity fraud, like when you pretend to be someone you're not.
Yeah.
And then when you're in prison for a long time and they find out that you can't die, that's going to have some implications on your notoriety and your ability to move through life without being seen. I think you won't have a concept of time anymore, right? Time won't matter because you have an infinite amount of it.
Yeah. But then in situations like with Rasputin, right? Like if I would have been alive then and immortal now, and if I'd known Rasputin, I could tell these podcasters, hey, this is what actually happened with Rasputin, or this is what he was actually like. I have historical knowledge throughout all of time.
Yeah, well, that's assuming that you, right, like that you were around Rasputin, but
that's true.
You could have been anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
You'd have the history of like a specific time and place that you were, and maybe sort of a general knowledge of other things going on in the world.
Yeah.
I'm anti
yeah.
immortality. It sounds terrible to me, honestly. But if it makes you happy,
yeah,
then
I'll sell my soul.
That's your deal. And
that's my deal.
I don't want to take it away from you.
But then if I'm immortal, I can know your kids, I can know your grandkids, I can know your grandkids' kids, I can know your grandkids. I can know your entire family.
And that's a positive. That's a positive to you.
I don't know. It's just a fact, a fun tidbit.
All right. Well, that's fine.
But yeah, okay. I'm interested in what you would sell your soul for.
What I would sell my soul for, and there's, I honestly, I don't want to sell my soul, but if I had to, I would probably sell it to gain some sort of control over my state of mind.
What if I could tell you could have that without selling your soul?
I think it's possible, but it will take a lot of work.
Right. Yes. Definitely a lot of work.
And I know that because I've been in therapy for 4 or 5 years now, and I've been working really hard and have made only, in the scheme of things, a small amount of progress. And so I guess like what I mean by that is I am aware of where I want to be, like emotionally and with like anxiety and whatnot. Like I know what I want, but my body and my mind sort of unconsciously still does the things that I don't like to do. Like when I get too intimate with someone, sometimes my like emotional mind will like shut down, and I don't want that to happen. I want to like be really intimate with people and like feel like really comfortable. But something in me says, oh, this is getting too intimate. We need to protect you. And I don't have any control over that. So if I wish that I had control, and then that like when I do get into a dangerous situation, also that I could like sort of shut off that emotion when it's actually helpful for me, because the reason these emotions and things exist is because they are helpful in some situations, but now they're happening in situations that aren't helpful for me. So that's what I would sell my soul for, is the control over those things.
I'm reading a book right now that's kind of like that.
Oh yeah.
It's definitely one of those things that's easier said than done, because the book is like, if you start getting anxious, or if your body gets anxious, just let it go. And they haven't told me how you let go yet. I'm not. Well, that's
the hard part, is that
I
always want to do things, and in therapy I'm always like, all right, but like, what do I do? Like, what's the next step?
Yeah,
and
me too.
My therapist is always like, well, we have these conversations and we do this work, and we just keep doing it, and then you get a little tiny bit closer to what you want, each
Yeah.
time, but it's so minuscule. And it is the process of talking through those things and thinking about those things that slowly starts to like transform your mind in the direction you want it to go. But it's hard to do, and it's hard to see the results. All the time I'm like, but I know what I want. Why won't my mind just do it? Why am I not in control of that?
Yeah. Yeah. To paraphrase, the book is kind of like you don't suppress it, like you let it go through you and let it pass through you.
Yeah.
Like you have to
But how?
take it.
But how do you let it?
But how? I know. I
I don't
haven't
know.
gotten to that part yet. I'll let you know. I haven't gotten to that part yet, but I will let you know when I do. I don't know if it will be helpful yet. I'm just reading stuff I find interesting and may or may not be helpful. Things in everyday life pass through you all the time, but they don't make as much of an impression on you. So, like, one thing that passes through you could be something that triggers me, but it just passed through you. Like, you didn't even think about it. That thing that can cause anxiety, like maybe a car getting too close to you on the road, that just passes through you. Like, that doesn't make you anxious, maybe. I mean, I don't know if that does or not. It's just an example. But it could make me really anxious, and then I could hold on to that anxiety, and then it can bubble up in my body and make an impression on me. And then when I drive, I could be more anxious next time because of these impressions and things that I'm not letting pass through. But for you, that just passes through. So you have to try and apply that to other things that would make you anxious. Everything passes through you. All these impressions pass through you. You forget about them. They come through you and you let them go. How do you do that?
My unconscious mind is the one making those decisions.
Yes.
And it's hard. I mean, if it was easy, everyone would be happy, right? All the time. Oh, and also life would be boring, right?
That's true.
I think life is all about contrast and texture. It's like, if you were happy all the time, like, and that was the only state you were ever in, it wouldn't be happy anymore. It would be nothing.
And I think that book is proposing that you do feel it, but you let it pass through so that it doesn't make this impression on you that carries with you throughout your entire life. Of course, I'm kind of paraphrasing. I'm not an expert in this book. I'm not the writer, but I should just mention that the book I'm referencing is The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer.
Yeah.
But I'm not full through it yet.
Well, sounds like Rasputin should read that book and just kind of get over the fact that he was exiled.
Yeah.
So that he doesn't cause a Russian uprising. Or maybe, here's the other thing. Mm-hmm. Was the uprising maybe good for the Russian people? I don't know.
In real life or fake life?
Fake life.
Yeah.
Maybe Rasputin did a good thing for the people of Russia in the movie. It's hard to say. But, something occurred, and we're not sure if it was good or bad. And honestly,
especially in the fake world, I don't know if it was. Yeah. They kind of imply that it was bad, but also how bad, we don't know.
In the story we heard, the Romanovs were the heroes. So
yes, that's
right.
True.
It's probably a matter of perspective, and I think it's at least possible that Rasputin's uprising in the fictional film Anastasia was good for the people of fictional Russia.
It's possible.
Yes. Anyways,
although they complain about working a lot, but
I complain about working a lot, so
okay, yeah.
You know, do you have a poem?
I do.
You'd like to share? It sounds like.
Yeah. You know, we didn't talk too much about how Rasputin. I think he's the winner of Best Henchman, which is a albino bat named Bartok.
Yeah, you really like this bat.
I do, and I like the way he talks. He's so cute, and he's like, "And I kick her, sir."
Also, great voice cast in this film.
Yeah.
Well, great cast of American voices for a film that is entirely takes place in Russia. But Meg Ryan,
yes,
is Anastasia. What's his face? Christopher or something.
Whenever I hear the name Meg Ryan, it always reminds me how my professor in college who taught Chinese, he used to live in Los Angeles, and he would tutor Meg Ryan's kid.
Oh, wow.
In Chinese. And he would boast about that a lot.
Kirsten Dunst was young Anastasia. John Cusack was Dmitri. Angela Lansbury, Kelsey Grammer. Christopher Lloyd was Rasputin. Hank Azaria was Bartok. He did your bat. He did a lot of voices for The Simpsons. J.K. Simmons was in it. Apparently Billy Porter, but it doesn't say who he was. Interesting. All right. You've got a poem.
Yeah, and I appreciate the villain song in this movie, too. There's a lot of chorus of insects, which is nice. All right, so this is written from the perspective of Rasputin. It's called Letter from Rasputin to Bartok, the albino bat sidekick. And this is a letter he wrote while being underneath the planet when he's in this life and death limbo. Dear albino bat Bartok, I know they make fun of me for holding you like a delicate champagne glass one carries after they've drunk from it all night. A funny but caring kind of holding. I don't mind. Being a magical man does funny things to you. Like appreciate an albino bat. Like dying but not really dying. The dark forces went shopping for souls like they were at Macy's. I was in the magical section by men's dress shirts. I know. I was looking to sell. But now I'm dead. Ish. So thank you for being here with me as my heart literally drops into your arms. Albino bat Bartok. When I'm with you, it feels like eating chilled yogurt on the side of the pool at night. So pleasant. A friend who knows what it looks like when you're dead is nice. My entire body is falling apart, but you never fell off the edge of me, did ya? Albino bat. My cuteness aggression is flowing. Dare I say, my heart for a bat is flowing literally with blood coming out the valves. Thank you for being here. You are more than a pet. And when I finally leave this physical plane, albino bat, I'll wrap you up in a warm tortilla and gobble you up and let the alchemy take us.
Very good.
Fun fact, I don't know why, but the song, look at this photograph. Every time I look at it, it makes me laugh, was like
Nickelback.
in my head while I was writing this. So after the last line, I wrote, look at this photograph. Every time. It has nothing to do with Rasputin, but it was just like in my head to the point where I almost considered like putting a line of it in the poem, but I didn't know how. Every time I look at it, it makes me laugh. My eyes get so red. And what the hell is on Joey's head?
This is where I grew up. I think the present owner fixed it up.
Yeah, could make that Rasputin. This is where I grew up. Russia with a stupid monarchy.
Siberia.
And then I moved to Russia where I didn't like the monarchy. My eyes get so red. And what the hell is in this green thing with green demons?
All right, we've done enough here. Hey, if you're listening and you,
Are we gonna rate the villain?
What's that?
Are we gonna rate the villain?
Oh, I forgot that we have to rate.
We've
the
done
villain.
a lot, but we haven't done it all.
All right, how many beards do you give Rasputin?
I give him 4 out of 5 beards because he just did a lot of damage as a villain. Like, no monarchy, no royalty in Russia because of him, which is a very big deal. And, he stayed under the earth for like deadish and alive-ish for about 10 years, actually.
Yeah.
Which is like, wow. Like, just like, wow.
Yeah, I'll give him 4 out of 5 beards as well for largely the same reason. We don't know exactly what happened in the fictional version, but we do know from real life that overthrowing of the ruling class can have a big dramatic effect on a society. And also proud of him for sticking through, or attempting, I guess, to stick through to the end of his mission to kill the entire Romanov family. So 4 out of 5 because he didn't succeed, and he was kind of a whiny little sad boy for not getting invited to that party.
Yep. And I also appreciate that, you know, you just take whatever henchmen you can get. If there are a bunch of beetles in the middle of the earth and lady beetles that sing high notes, go for it. They're your best friends. If you have no friends, just be like Rasputin and...
Yep. And if you want to be friends with us, you can actually, just by reaching out to us on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or TikTok at Next Door Villain. You can find us by searching that just about anywhere. And you can be an extra special friend with us by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/nextdoorvillain. Tiana will write you a special haiku. You'll get special bonus content. We just did a Bang, Marry, Kill episode for a number of villains where Tiana admitted that she would like to have sex with Freddy Krueger. You can hear all that and other cool bonus content on our Patreon. Again, patreon.com/nextdoorvillain for as little as $3 a month.
Very good. Yeah, rate us, love us, follow us.
And thank you for listening.